And we are apparently live, and I'll toss you a link so you can tag along. Do you want your name in the description or no?
Sure.
How do I get the link to you? I honestly have no idea how to work this shit. It's too many buttons, and it's too difficult for me.
I think I got a notification. Let me check.
Oh, you know, I got it. Here we go. Should be that. Now, I guess the question is, if you turn on the volume, which I'm not going to because there'll just be two of you, can you hear yourself? Can you hear me? And again, the delay is about 10 seconds.
Yeah, let me see if I can hear you. Let me see if I can hear myself. Alright, I can hear both.
Nice. So I'll toss a link on Twitter and maybe we'll get like 5 views. But it is what it is. These always get archived and that sort of thing.
The full motions, they have these lines around. I guess it must be some emulator.
Yeah, it's the emulator thing. It's just videos only. So when you're driving, it's not an issue.
I always liked that video in the beginning with the MX-5 going around and then in the game doing the same thing.
Well,
I think the biggest difference...
Not you go.
Yeah, the biggest difference I noticed even back in the day was how much more body roll the car had in comparison, for example, with Gran Turismo.
Well, this is really how Konami sold a lot of people. I remember, if this wasn't their E3 trailer, it was still one of the first things to come out about the game. This game really didn't have a big marketing campaign behind it, from what I remember.
No, it didn't. I've heard about the game in one of those gaming magazines that existed back in the day, and how they were showing the whole 4 points of contact that you can see then in the game with this HUD that shows the 4 tires and all that.
Well, and there is some sort of overlay that you can enable that shows the points of contact and the way the G-forces are acting on the car, but it's a bit intrusive, I guess, so I have turned it off.
Yeah, it's just... Well, I remember one of the... Well, maybe the biggest selling point that they tried to make was the fact that they were trying to explain, oh, and unlike other console games or whatever, here we actually simulate the 4 tires, 4 contact patches.
Oh my god, we got a viewer. It's Dr. Condor. But
Mythical Dr. Condor.
I might as well get into it and start turning some laps and get the show going, because, I mean, when Ethan and I have streamed a couple nights ago, we were getting like 8 people, which is really not bad considering I don't promote my stuff at all. It's just whoever subscribed.
Hell, that's more people than some of the streams that Random Call Sign used to do about him driving on Wengen or something. So it's not bad at all, no.
So I'm just going to start things off with the R34 Super GT car on Autumn Hill, which is, honestly, it reminds me of Lime Rock, but just faster, if that was even possible.
That's a neat little track, yeah. Autumn Hill. I always found it funny the names that these Japanese companies had for the tracks, like Gran Turismo and this one.
Well, this whole game was obviously a spin-off of Gran Turismo. To some extent, I mean, the career mode is very much their own unique thing. But you can tell that they took aim at the GT audience, much like in the way Kunos took aim at the sim racing market and just kind of made their own thing. This game is very much the Assetto Corsa of the PS2. A bunch of random cars, a bunch of random tracks, an emphasis on the feeling of driving, if that makes sense. The way it was promoted was very much, we know our game is not Gran Turismo, we know we don't have 800 cars, we know we don't have this massive career mode, but we're going to offer a bit more realistic driving experience, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember even, I think I read some interview with some staff back in the day, and they were definitely focusing more on the driving aspect and how they wanted to push the envelope a little bit further than what was available. And of course, they didn't mention names, but it was obvious who they were talking about.
So the one nice thing about the heads-up display in this game is you will be able to see my pedal input, so the people watching for that will get to see what I'm doing as a driver.
Oh yeah, that's neat, indeed.
But again, my issue right now is I can't convert speed to kilometers, so I'm kind of flying a bit blind. So I guess I'll run like 10 laps or so, and just switch up the different cars.
Yes, graphics-wise, of course, this wasn't as polished as Gran Turismo, but I think it still holds up. You know, of course, it's no P cars or anything like that, but it doesn't offend my senses. At least the tracks look detailed enough, and you know, trees and everything around them.
Well, this, I mean, I don't think you can tell from the stream, but this doesn't look too bad on an emulator. I mean, like, you have to know to some extent that you're playing a PS2 game.
Yeah, no, on my screen it looks pretty decent actually.
So what you can't tell, because there's no wheel input graphic, is that I'm putting a lot of wheel into it, which is my main, I guess, negative aspect right now.
Oh, because you want to maybe change your settings of the wheel travel?
No, like, I mean, I'll be able to deal with it for now. For the road cars, it'll be alright.
Yeah, I guess it's more of road car setting.
I'm definitely not struggling right now.
Now, one thing I remember, maybe not with this car that you're driving now, but with the softer road cars, was how, indeed, we were talking about this weight transfer, how shocked I was, first time I tried it with a gamepad, that I couldn't brake as I was braking in Gran Turismo, because of course in Gran Turismo braking basically was dumbed down into something really easy to do. You cannot lock the wheels and the car always goes where you're pointing. But here it was not like that at all, and we can see that even because I can see by your braking inputs that you're just braking gently into these corners.
Well, I'm trail braking a lot too, and you'll be able to see it through the center.
No, yeah, because you're driving a downforce car, but if you were driving Gran Turismo 4, you would be able to just stomp on full brakes, you know, full brakes, full accelerator, full brakes, full accelerator, something like this. Yeah, I just love how orange the lettering, you know, Sector 1, Lap 5 looks. It definitely gives me an old arcade feel when I look at the fonts and the numbers around.
I'm definitely liking, and you can probably tell in the final corner how free the car is through the center. You can see I'm riding the pedal at about 50% input.
Oh yeah, yes, we cannot see your wheel, but I can imagine that indeed you're rotating the car around some corners. It's not on rails in some of these corners at all. Which, once again, for a mere, if we can say this, console racer, there were some cool console races even before this one, but for sure this was, you know, something a bit beyond. Oops, you got a black flag there. Something a bit beyond what most people could drive, I guess. And the game that definitely would shine more with a wheel. I remember that distinctively. Well, Eric, indeed, it was forgotten, but we can say it was forgotten as much as any competition for Gran Turismo or Forza was forgotten, because you know the marketing machine steamrolled everything, and to be fair, the racing genre, especially the realistic racing genre on consoles, was never a big market to begin with. Still, it's kind of sad to see how, and I think Austin and Ethan were talking about this in the previous stream, we had so many rally games and so many racing games in the early 2000s, even for consoles, and now it's just a desert.
Getting really crossed up and trying to cook it in the braking zones. It's actually not working out for me. It's got to be a bit smoother.
Whoa.
Yeah. I like that though, you can overdrive a car. In these sims, it's usually just brake as hard as you can, as late as you can.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. That was the Gran Turismo way, you know? You just stomp on the brakes on top of the corner, and the car would still hold. Definitely not what happens here.
And I'm liking, too, how consistent I'm able to be. It's a very predictable physics engine. I'm only running a couple hundredths off my PB in each sector. Read the car up. Oh, wow. I had to lift a bit through the center there, but it was a really good line through the final sector. And only a tenth off.
Yes, Ivan, this is the GT500 R34. We have 5 viewers now. No, definitely. It's funny, you said predictable. It's like an old mantra of mine, even doing physics. It's like a car, it's not supposed to be hard to drive in the sense that it's not that it's on rails, it cannot be on rails, but you should feel connected with the car immediately. If you don't, then there's something wrong. Because that's what happens in real life. You know, you have a wheel in your hands and the pedals, and you feel connected with it. I'm not saying you're gonna be Ayrton Senna, Dale Earnhardt, or some drift king out of the bat, but you're not gonna, you know, crash in the first 2 corners just because you don't know exactly, or you went just a tiny bit over the limit, a la iRacing, right?
Again, just super consistent laps, 36.7s, 37 or low 37s. And it's it does remind me of P-Cars too, in that there's just very minimal rear wheel spin. You'll probably be able to tell by the inputs. When I commit to exiting a corner, it's just full throttle immediately.
Yeah, you're stamping on that accelerator. But then again, well, yeah, it's maybe it could be a bit less attractive. You're still driving a GT500 car, they were pretty grippy. But yeah, maybe later you try to drive something that should be a bit more Larry, like, I don't know, Cobra or something like that, and we'll see how that goes.
I really want to run a low 37. Then we'll move on to the next car. I definitely want to try the F1 GTR, as that's a big Kunos edition. That was a very exciting car to drive in AC. Exciting edition, exciting to drive. Not the most accurate, I don't think. I'm not the biggest fan of driving it, but it's one of those cars that needs to be in every sim, in my opinion.
The McLaren.
Yeah, the F1 LM.
Yeah, yeah, the Kunos version. Kuno's version is kind of weird. It's stiff. Well, I know it's supposed to be stiff, but I think it's a bit too stiff, a bit too unforgiving, especially coupled with, you know, that behavior that the AC tires have, that once you start sliding it's kind of hard to get it back.
Damn, just bang on the
I
times.
That's pretty neat, actually. If you did a 36, high 36 even. I wonder how, does this game have that car? I don't even remember now.
Which game?
Does Enthusia has the F1 GTR?
Yep. It's actually the exact car that's in AC, so I'm looking forward to drive that.
Ah, cool. The short tail one even.
There we go. That's a good lap. Could have had a better final corner, but it is what it is. Can I run a 35?
Well, you're definitely close.
Yeah, we're putting together some good laps now.
You know, we don't notice once again because we don't have the steering input, but I can see you are putting a lot into that steering around those long corners. A lot, when I mean a lot, I mean you're definitely not just cranking the wheel always in a certain angle, you have to correct the car.
Yeah, I'm definitely seesawing through the center. Oh, first major fuck up of the run. It's alright though. You know what, I am going to try running. I'm going to turn down the steering rate just a bit. Or the degrees of rotation from 540 to 420. Just because I want that extra sensitivity.
Well, yeah, especially if you're driving a high downforce car.
So I'll give it a couple balls out laps and we'll go run something else. Really want that 35. Alrighty, that's made a difference. Carried a decent amount of speed through the turn 1 complex. Onto the backstretch. Nice trail break into the forest section. Maybe picked up a 10th. Nope, lost a bit of speed there. But we are much better through the final 2 corners. Tucking right to the wall. Damn, only 500s off. Alright.
Oh, that's close. How does it feel, the steering now? Tighter?
A lot better. I mean, you'll see the amount of speed I'm carrying through 1.
Yeah, but if anything, I would say you're seesawing even more now.
Yep. Definitely. 36 flat. Aw, shit. It's in there. It's in the car, definitely. And you'll see in the turn 1 complex, I'm using the throttle to catch the car as it gets sideways. Didn't downshift for the chicane. Might have lifted too much for the final corner. Yep. Lost a whole 10th doing that.
Well, you're definitely on the limit here now. This game has other GT500 cars, doesn't it?
It has the Supra and the Honda NSX, which I assume drive more or less the same.
Yeah, but it's already a neat field for you to have a race with GT500 around.
Man, this is a fun track. It's lime rock, but it's so fast.
And it has a pretty funny scenery also, lots of trees. Very Japanese countryside, I would say.
Come on, I want that fucking 35.
The GT500 class. There was a neat mod for GTR2 of GT500s, at least very good graphically and all that. I almost had a shot doing physics for that, but then I went into HSO and it got in the back burner.
That mod, I believe, is still around. It's converted upon converted. Like, it's very... It's one of those mods that stood the test of time.
Yeah, I think I've seen someone converted even for AMS and whatever. I think
Yep.
it's around, yeah. Well, the models were pretty good. Shivas, I don't know if that was the name of it. No, I think it was BB. Yeah, I think that. It was Japanese for sure. There were some Japanese people involved in doing that mod, I think. I'm talking with the chat here.
We were actually trying, some of us, to get a Super GT League going in R Factor 2, because that Super GT car is really good. But it's very difficult to find people to play R Factor 2 with.
Yeah, you're going for a niche of a niche of a niche with that one. You definitely want your 35, huh?
I mean, it's so close. But
yeah, but if you don't get it soon, you might as well change something.
Yeah, I'll give it one more lap here. Let's see how clutch I can be. Because I do want to drive that McLaren. Alright, let's blow turn 1. It's a half decent turn 1. There it is, 35.7. See, I can be clutch.
But you got some black flags along the way, so I think that wouldn't stand if you were doing some time trial bluffing.
Yeah, there was, I think on the last stream I have to rewind, I nudged a wall maybe. But it was, or I put a left tire off in the dirt, but at that point, this game models dirt where you do sink down into it and the car starts bouncing a bit, so it's not really an advantage to do so. But in here, this is pretty wild. It takes telemetry in the post-race screen of every little event you've had. So you can actually go lap by lap and see where you made contact, where there was a cut. So it claimed coming out of the, I guess what would be the turn 2 complex, I nudged a wall. And then I clipped the fence on the backstretch chicane for the second part and put a tire in the dirt.
Oh yeah, I always like this feature, yeah.
And you can see, as I'll scroll through the laps here, you can see the blue and pink arrows into 1. My braking point changes ever so slightly. So there's turns where I blow it. You can see if there's multiple max speed followed by full braking where I fuck up. But braking points remaining more or less consistent, so I'd say that's pretty decent. But yeah, that is a lot of fun.
Yeah, the game definitely had little things like this one that made it a tad more special. Yeah, that's true, JCO. The game could have more real-world tracks, but I guess licensing was the issue. It's clear to me that Konami didn't have anything near the budget that Polyphony Digital had for Gran Turismo.
I'm wondering how much they were banking on this game to develop its own kind of, not cult following, but in some sense, how the original P cars, they kind of released it to try and take a chunk out of Forza and Gran Turismo's fan base. And I wonder if they built this game with the hopes that maybe they'd build an Enthusia 2 one day, and it maybe just never came.
I think I heard something back in the day that definitely was something. Um, I don't. I think it would be very much a case of that. Although I wonder if Sony didn't promote the game that actively because they were basically competing with themselves at that point.
That's true. So, we do have the McLaren F1 GTR LM in this game. Is there anything you want to say about it before we get going here?
Well, it's going to be a fun comparison.
I'm not going to run at the same track just so people don't get bored.
No,
I can if people want.
No, it's not necessary. Driving's in a different track, yeah.
And maybe after
Yeah,
we'll do a high-powered street car at, I think it's Tsukuba. I never say that name right.
Tsukuba, yeah. Yeah, JCO, definitely the fact that this game came after Gran Turismo hurt it a lot, because I reckon if this game would have come out before GT4 and after GT3, you know, in that space there, it could have had quite a lot more following. But the fact that it came out after GT4 in what was already the end of life of the PS2 wasn't very good. Yes, Enthusia had wheel support for the Driving Force GT, and I think the Pro also, and also if you plug a G25 it detects as a Driving Force Pro, so yeah, it definitely had wheel support.
And already this is an interesting car.
I would expect it to be a bit more skettish than the Nissan that you just drove.
Absolutely. Gonna have to learn the track here and progressively get faster. But that's alright. Maybe not the best place to try the McLaren F1, but it's a very small handling track, I suppose.
Yeah, it's kind of a gincana track in the middle of the city.
It really wants to get up on the sidewalls, and you'll see the car over-rotating a bunch through the center. It is getting up. You can feel it physically get up on the sidewall.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, Eric, indeed, not many people had wheels already back then, and this definitely was a game that, and I tried it myself, so it was a game that it wasn't easy at all in the gamepad, and the gamepad didn't do justice. But it was definitely one of those games that I had, you know, a more serious feel out of it on a console. You know, before this, maybe F355 from Sega, that was another one. Yes, it has force feedback, doesn't it, Austin?
Yeah, and it's really not terrible. I think if you put this in a sim right now, the average person would say it's kind of simplistic, but really not terrible. It's kind of, I would say it's in between, like something like Grid Autosport and Assetto Corsa.
Well, you seem to be getting the hang of it, but I see that the car is still fighting you. How does it feel?
I mean, it's definitely an MR car. The rear end wants to swap under braking, and most of what I have to do throughout the lap is just modulate the brake pedal so the rear end doesn't rotate too quickly. But it's definitely fun. It's definitely different than what we were driving in the Super GT car. It doesn't feel like they just put a different 3D model over the same set of physics. That being said, when it gets up on the sidewall, it just kind of sits there. It never really feels like it wants to spin out on me. so I'm not sure if there's like a hidden stability assist in the background to kind of throw the console players a bone.
Well, maybe, but I would guess more that it's more a question of slip angle. There's for sure that the car is getting to that optimum slip angle, which is when your wheel probably is dead center around the corner, and the car tends to want to stay there for a bit at least. Yeah, that's true, George. This is indeed a forgotten gem.
You'll see going into turn 1 I'm doing some 2-foot magic save hacks, modulating both the brake and the gas.
Oh yeah, I just saw that.
But they also have replicated the stability under power that you get with a MR car, so I do like that aspect of it.
Oh yeah, you have more weight in the rear, so...
This is a really fun track to rip around on. I know it might not be the most exciting.
What, to watch?
Well, for this car, I mean, this car won Le Mans and is designed to go upwards of 200 miles an hour. And this is kind of a little club circuit we've got going on here. I think this is the first track you race on in career mode.
Yeah, I think so, but with a much slower car than this, for sure.
Oh yeah. Definitely a handful, though. It's not the super Simcade game you'd think it would be. I'm definitely having to work to run a good time.
Oh yeah, in that corner over that weird brown section, we see a lot, at least I can see a lot, that the rear is stepping out in the braking and you have to counter steer actually.
Yep. Yeah, there's two boardwalk sections. There's the first, which is Sector 2, and then the final corner. Both of them are really sketchy in this thing.
You also have to be careful with these small jumps.
I still can't completely get the final corner right. Struggling a bit there.
You know, it's really interesting to me how, you know, in this game you're seesawing the wheel and you have to control the rear, and that flies in the face, especially back in this time. Oh, you hit the wall there finally. It flies in the face of what some people would think is the limit, how it is driving a racing car in the limit, or any car in the limit. Because I think even today someone commented in a video saying that, I don't know, I don't remember in which game, but they said, oh, you know, you can only be fast if the car is over the limit. And that reminded me that some people indeed think that driving a racing car is just pointing the wheel in the direction of the corner, when it's nothing like that only. Yeah, that's true, Fred, man. Like we were saying, this game had proper weight transfer, and the rear could get very light on the braking.
Like going into 1, or a downshift from 5th to 3rd, it wants to swap ends, and I have to give it a bit of gas to stabilize it again.
I remember someone, you know, comparing this game even to Live for Speed at the time, saying, oh, you know, it's like the Live for Speed for consoles or something.
Well, I was on Live for Speed not too long ago, maybe a couple days, last week sometime, and
Really?
it's not close to Live for Speed, but you can tell both devs are trying to accomplish the same thing with their physics engine, is to try and free the car up during the center of the corner. and kind of invoke a really pronounced sense of weight transfer without going overkill like you see in GT Sport.
Yeah, although GT Sport. Well, I never played it, but from what I saw, yeah, it's like it goes from one extreme to the other with some cars to other cars, something like this. I have to say that we at some point hit 11 viewers and now we're at a solid 10.
Nice.
And don't worry, viewers, he's not gonna just keep hot lapping the whole day. We're just comparing it. And speaking of comparisons, what do you think of this car comparing with the AC version?
This car is infinitely better than the AC version.
Yeah, like I was saying before, I think the AC version is so skittish, you know? It's... I mean, I'm not saying the McLaren was, I don't know, some dead easy car to drive, but let's face it, it was a car that was created for gentlemen drivers to go to Le Mans and don't kill themselves, and for them to race in the BPR series. So I don't think it was, you know, a hill handling car by any means. And yet in the Assetto Corsa, if you even look at it wrong, you're spinning.
Yeah, Assetto Corsa, the sensation's really akin to driving on ice. Especially on corner exit. It's just it feels uncomfortable to drive. But I'll end that session there. 38.7 on the board. That whole lap you're just working to keep the car in check, but it's never inherently trying to kill you.
Yeah, that's the difference, right? I mean, okay, you have to work to get the car to get the lap times, but you're working to be quick, not to keep the car on the track.
I do like in AC's McLaren, braking is very, very simple. And this, anytime you jump on the brakes and then lift off the trail, the rear end just wants to come around. And part of the technique in braking, especially here at Marco Strada, which is this really piss small city circuit, is when you lift off the brake, you want to use that to your advantage in some corners. For example, turn 1, because you can ride that kind of rear end kick out all throughout turn 1 and get extra rotation, like significantly more than you'd have in, let's say, a FR car.
Yeah, really using that rear bias weight to help you around. So someone is mentioning here the driving challenges. Indeed, the driving challenges were something in this game.
And you know what? I think I went through them all one night. This is what we're playing on right now is a 100% save. So this has everything. So right now this is actually going to show my best lap. I should have done this with the Nissan. But I think I've passed all the driving challenges on my own account. But this, so we can show all the different cars and just fuck around wherever, is an everything unlock save. But if there's any challenge you want me to attempt in particular that you remember just from playing the game back in the day, let me know and I'll give it a go. We're going to do one more car. I'll do like a street car at Tsukuba to kind of show the difference.
Yeah, but look how nice the car looks in these replays, huh? I mean, the way the car is hugging the corners, you know, it's even the jump. I mean, it doesn't have the graphics of Gran Turismo, but the way the car is...
There's a fluidity to it.
Yes, it really looks, you know, very good around. Well, the challenges. I remember there was those silly ones with the cones that you had to hit the cones or something like this, or be in the middle of those. Those are really hard sometimes.
I'm trying to look for a circuit that I'm somewhat fast at.
So someone is asking if you had to 360 a smart car in this game in a challenge. Did you?
Honestly, I don't remember. That sounds right.
I think you had to do some crazy stunts, yeah, at some points.
So we'll do, let's say, an A-class car, because this will be their supercar list. So this is this is a very similar car also to Assetto Corsa, where Kunos basically just took the popular cars of the day, and got as many licenses as they could, right?
Yeah, I could say the controversial thing once again that the target audience for AC is basically the target audience that used to play GTs in Forza. So
Yeah.
ooh,
So
some TVR. Back in the day when TVRs were still a thing.
yeah, there's some interesting cars. I believe that's a TBR Sagaris, or am I Tamora?
I saw the Tamora there at least.
There's a Cerebra or Cabrera. The Viper GTS looks appealing, but I do want to drive a supercar to kind of give the AC feel. And there's really not a lot of supercars here. I think near the end of the stream we'll have to do the CTR Yellowbird at the ring, since that was the really popular combo in this game.
Yeah, trying to emulate that lap that
Yep.
everybody knows.
But I think we're going to run with the Ford GT.
Well, the Ford GT is also an apt choice because it was the cover car of Gran Turismo 4 actually.
Well, I'm trying to think back at this time period in 2004, 2005. We really didn't have the rise of the supercar just yet, because it seemed like we had a point in the late 2000s where all suddenly everyone jumped back on the supercar bandwagon, and you started seeing Ferrari push out a lot of stuff, Porsche push out a lot, McLaren came back by 2011 with the MP412C.
Basically the time when the Chinese started buying supercars.
Yeah.
So the market grew a lot more and they just started creating them like never before, and it's ironic that today there are more supercars like that than actually affordable sports car for the common man. So this is a track I know quite well. After endless and endless laps here, both in this game and in the whole Gran Turismo series, and even in RUF CTR.
Well, and this was on Gran Turismo Sport a few weeks ago. I had the number 3 time in North America, and this is what I used as an example in my video that came out last night as a track that you can exploit in GT just by driving on the grass.
Your picture of your RX-7 all on the grass.
This car is definitely not geared for here, but
oh yeah, yes, you will barely hit 4 for something in the back straight. The GT, I remember it was never an easy car to drive. Not here, not in Gran Turismo, because it had a short wheelbase. Yeah, that's true, JCO. I always liked those 2 lights that you have there on the tachometer, showing the torque and the power. They blink when you pass the maximum torque and the maximum power.
I didn't realize they had that. Is yellow light max torque?
The yellow, I think it's max power. The green is max torque, yes. And how is the driving of the GT so far?
It's sloppy, but it's very much like AC taught us supercars drive, just a bit more responsive. Like AC's got that really floaty ice tire feeling when you run street tires. And here it's kind of the same, except the tires are more responsive, so there's a bit of a flow you gotta get into with the car. It's like a slow motion McLaren like we were just driving.
That sounds about right.
This car, what I will say though is, being 10 years newer, this car is a lot more stable. It doesn't want to swap ends under braking as much. It rotates a lot more gradually through the center of the corner, whereas the McLaren wanted to rotate, or do all of its rotating on entry, and you had to manage it.
Yeah, and the McLaren even had downforce and all that pointed quicker to the corner, I guess. One thing I expect from this kinds of cars, or one thing I remember actually from seeing Enthusia videos, that people could actually you know, they could actually drift around in this game a lot more easy than anything back in the day. We must not forget that this came out when the ice racing was at its peak in terms of PC simulators, as we see you slide off the track. Um, at the same time as this was out, you know, we had, you know, the worst and most infamous mods and even default content for R Factor and things like that that were like almost undrivable if your wheels went anywhere outside of their designated trails around the track. So it was like the distinction couldn't be clearer between this and things like Leaf for Speed and that other sort of games, let's put it this way, or interpretation of reality. I do remember that, and again something controversial, I think that this game does a better job in terms of weight transfer sometimes than even AC. If there's one thing I'm critic of AC, and please don't shoot me, chat, it's the fact that, like Austin was saying, when you hit the brakes hard, some cars do this well, but some don't do it at all in terms of weight transfer and weight shifting. It's I've seen, you know, and you will correct me, for sure you will agree with me that some of the modded cars in AC are way better than the default content or the coolest content.
Absolutely.
It's like, and I don't want to boast about my own things here, but it's like also my stuff for the ISI engine that's, quite frankly, I think it surpassed the default and even some of the default AMS content, because, well, when you work so long with the tools you have, you kind of become an expert in those. And you're doing a 1-2 something at the point, at this point. I will slide off the track again. A 1-2, I think it could be a realistic lap time, a bit on the fast side, but well, these are ideal conditions.
Do we have a 4GT reference lap for this place? I know that's probably pretty rare because that's a very specific American car in Japan.
Yeah, I don't think they ran that on any best motoring, but of course I remember some of the lap times some other cars did, and given the power of the 4GT and all that, I think that's, you know, that's in the ballpark for sure, the lap times we're running.
I'm finding the final corner extremely difficult, which is why I've almost wrecked there twice, but you sail it in there, you jump really hard on the brakes, which on the screen will be halfway, but I'm going to the pressure spot on the G29, and it's kind of sketchy whether it hooks or not.
That's a nice one even, yeah, I bet Kaz would have some laps around here with his 4GTs. Eric, I actually did try the Grand Prix Legends mod for AC. It's not a bad effort at all. It's not a bad effort. I think it's some of the best classic cars that are in GT, and it's not easy to do physics for those cars. What I don't like in them is, you know, the whole slow spin that plagues so many cars in AC, in which if your car goes beyond the limit at slow speeds, it sometimes takes too long to recover. And also, I think some of the cars are very good, some of the cars are a bit too skittish. Even, and when I say skittish, I mean in terms of the steering inputs. It's kind of hard to explain in words, but they are a bit, sometimes they should be a bit more compliant, I think. Yes, the 2.0, I downloaded it last week. I tried with all the cars, and I did that because I developed the whole physics of F171 for AMS, and I thought about, okay, these are not exactly the same cars, but you know, let me take a look what the competition is up to, and yeah, I was curious to see. But not a bad effort at all, like I said, for AC. Definitely some of the best weight transfers, especially under braking, that I've experienced in AC. Uh, yeah, very good given the tools, for sure, very good. One of the few things I would consider racing in the platform. 12777, Austin.
Man, this is fucking work to drive. It is. You talk about the F1 cars not being compliant. This is a mess. Fucking American supercars.
Yeah,
Like,
once again, we cannot see your wheel, but I think you're correcting a lot there.
oh yes, absolutely. It's very much when you get through the center of the corner and you shift the weight backwards, you jump back on the power. You lose all the front weight. So suddenly you go from having a ton of grip, basically like it's a super heavy GT3 car, to all of a sudden the front end's just not there for you.
Well, at least, like we said, at least it's a much more dynamic experience than even some of the touted super simulators, right?
This would be pretty fun online. Unfortunately, this game doesn't have online, but
Yeah, it predated online. And indeed, the 4GT was famous or infamous for having a very soft suspension that would allow a lot of weight transfer in order to try to make the car a little bit less dangerous because of the short wheelbase.
well, here's a question I had earlier today, because I have a couple Hot Wheels and I was looking at it and just thinking about it. Is there a different size or different general specifications between the 05 4GT and then the 1966 GT40? And I know there are different specs of GT, like it goes from the Mark 1 all the way to the Mark 4. But are they generally the same wheelbase, the same kind of car? Or is it just design cue?
No, the new is slightly bigger in all directions. They scaled it a bit bigger.
That's what I thought. I just wasn't super certain on that.
Yeah, because the old one was really small and really low, and a lot of people these days wouldn't fit even. Some of the drivers didn't fit back in the day. That's why some of the cars had a bubble on the roof. Eric is asking me how do I know that mine is more correct. You mean mine what? I didn't do a 67 mod, I did a 71 mod. You asking me about my opinions about what is correct and what is not correct?
I will say in defense of Richard, I've driven his HSO mods and been frustrated by their league twice. But I will attest that the mods are incredibly good, especially his Can-Am mod. Those cars taught me throttle control and helped me immensely for racing this year. And there was a point of the broadcast at the Mossport event where I basically ran down a guy on the front stretch just by throttle control because I was steadier on the pedal than he was.
Well, thank you, Austin. Well, at least you had a lot of fun while you still drove there. Even Costa is asking me that, basically saying that they're asking me my sim value. How a 67 Lotus 49 should drive? Well, the thing is, of course you can guide yourself with numbers. There's not many numbers about how certain things should work, and I can tell you straight away that nobody understands tires fully. Nobody does. Forget it. Not Kunos, not Aris, not Niels, nobody. And it's all a matter of interpretation of the data and interpretation of the things you have. If you're asking about my experience, I have some experience in go-karting, not professionally, but I ran quite a few amateur events. And in terms of how a Lotus 49 should or shouldn't drive, it's a matter of analyzing the data, analyzing a few onboards that exist relatively recent, and how, you know, how it correlates, everything correlates in how a car behaves. It's like I was saying in the beginning of this stream to Austin, if you're driving a car, it doesn't matter if it's a sim or reality, you have to feel connected in some way, because, you know, a disconnected car would freak out real life drivers, and I think Austin doesn't let me lie in this one.
No, it's true. I mean, even talking with Ian Bell when he's been on our TeamSpeak at the odd occasion, which, yep, he has, the way he's put it is that real cars are self-aligning. They're never trying to kill you. They always want to work with you rather than against you, if that makes sense. And I know that's a bit ambiguous, but it really is the truth. It's quite difficult to loop a car unless you're completely retarded and enter a corner just the most stupefying way possible. Which, I mean, happens because not every real driver puts in the amount of effort that I think sim racers do in practicing their racecraft. That's a different topic.
Oh yeah, it's certainly a different topic. Eric, I think you're talking about the Alex Rossi video, I think, of him driving a 49 around some US track. I've seen that video and a few others. In terms of a good guide that you can use to see if you are doing something right into physics-wise is to see replays and to see sometimes real videos are better than replays, to see how your inputs are compared with reality. Of course, this is much harder in older cars, although I've been to a lot of classic car events and etc. where I could actually peek and try to see in some good vantage points how the drivers were taking certain corners. And like I said, if you're emulating the inputs that the real driver has to do, it's because you are already in the ballpark. You know, it's very much a case of what is driving, you know, this car compared to what is driving the real car. And if you have to do the same things in the inputs that the real driver is doing, then you are getting close to that. That's more important even than absolute spot on lap times or absolute spot on top speeds or things. Even some raw data like G's can be deceiving because it can be achieved by very different kinds of inputs. Yeah, you're getting lower lap times, huh? Almost 1-1.
Yeah, I'd like to run a 101. This thing really likes to drift. There's no penalty for getting really, really sideways, but I expect that on street tires to an extent.
Oh yeah, pretty wide slip angles on those. Especially back in the day, because this car was from an era before the whole Nürburgring craze and before the super sticky semi-slick road tires, which are not road tires at all.
Yeah, the
Well,
final turn's really murdering me.
Yeah, we've seen you struggling with that quite a few times. Oh, and I do apologize if I'm ranting here with the chat while we're driving around.
No, it's absolutely fine. I think we're going to call it a day on that one. That's not a fun car to drive. It looks fun, but very, very difficult. So we'll end that at a 102.1, and then we'll move on to something else. But yeah, goddamn, I'll show the replay on that one.
Yeah, let's see you sliding a bit.
I'm not sure what the replay controls are, so I don't know if there's different camera angles or not. Yeah, it definitely feels like GT Sport. You can see where the influence from their Enthusia physics guy made it into GT Sport in this game. But from the outside, like, it looks fine. And the camera angles aren't the greatest here, but having to lift in
Yeah.
some corners because the front end won't set.
Yeah, we can see the car gently sliding around, but this is good. This is actually good because, like someone said, some friend of mine said, you know, the car, you need to be working a lot more inside the car than what it looks in the outside.
Comment,
GT.
drift more.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Nice to see how it slides around the last corner, really. Yeah, it's stretched to 1690, the screen here on YouTube. I guess the aspect ratio of the game wasn't really like this. Yeah, even many people think that indeed doing physics is just putting the values there in the car and that's it. They have no idea how much, at least in my case, how much testing is involved. Well, Eric, nobody's saying that an old 911 was an easy car to drive. It wasn't. But the thing is, it wasn't also like... There's a difference between a car that can murder you in certain situations from a car that's, you know, only has two modes, like either gripping or already spinning around completely. And I guess that's the difference we were talking about. So what you gonna do now, Austin?
I want to see these, I believe it's Driving Revolution are the challenges.
I don't remember if it's there or Enthusia Live, actually.
This seems to be about right, because, just what I'm looking at here.
Oh yes, it is, it is, it is. There they are.
And I'm just picking one at random. Hugging the outer edge. Hugging the outer edge.
Oh yeah, I reminded myself those challenges in this big, I don't know, cross highway or whatever over the ocean, like Florida kind of stuff.
Yep. So I don't know what missions are in this game, so I'm just trying to find something that sounds entertaining, I guess. And a lot of this just looks like... Okay, race through a high-speed S-curve and then down the slope, so let's try this. I remember this stuff.
Oh, this was hard. Yeah, this was hard.
And as you can see, we have some interesting graphical issues, so we might not stay on this mode too long.
Oh yeah, what the hell? There's a lot of shine around.
But I do remember these challenges. You have to pass the alt checkpoints at a certain speed.
Yeah.
Try this again.
Pass them all at the speed the game, you know, thinks it's good.
And there's a line that shows what speed you should have. And I am in auto transmission because that's what they've set me at, so... I guess you can take that flat out. Sounds about right. They really want you to... what's the word I'm looking for? They want you to air it out and chuck it sideways.
Well, that's actually good. I mean, they want people to know, no, it's okay to go beyond what you think is the limit. Where you're going. But they are not easy for sure. And let's not forget, you're driving this with a wheel, with a pad. This was really hard work.
Yeah, I'm getting that impression. That'll be very close to a goal.
Yeah, the last challenge was with the Audi R8, the LMP one. Very good. The LMP one, you had to go a full lap around this very long track with all these things like that. That thing was almost impossible with a gamepad, really.
Well, we can try that. It seems level 18's at the Cosmic Egg, so I presume it's not that circuit. Oh, here it is.
Yeah,
Stage 1. Drive a sector, drive a sector, drive a sector, drive a lap. Yeah, let's try this. The load times are incredible. I don't know if chat's picked up on that yet, but dear God. And I guess with the downforce, you can just take this wide open.
Oh yeah, that was the hard part with the gamepad. It's that the car is so quick and reacts so quickly that you would miss one of these if your thumb just slid a bit too much.
I can see this being a lot of fun. And I don't know if chat can quite see it, but there's a line in the center of these icons that are floating that shows your speed, and there's basically a sweet spot you can hit, and it's tough to focus on. But once you understand how these little chevrons work, it's really intuitive. We'll try this again.
Yeah, the line goes up with the speed. If it's too low, and those thingies are blue, you're going too slow.
One thing that's interesting, and something I've maybe got too used to from Project Cars, is the power oversteer on this car. Not wheel spin, but...
Yeah, that rear seems to be coming out when you accelerate in the middle of the corner.
That is a lot of fun, though. I'll give one more shot. I want a good rating. Big problem is I don't know this track, right? So I'm just kind of going into corners being like, oh shit.
Oh yeah. Once again, this track reminds me some track from Gran Turismo also, but that's normal, I suppose.
Yeah, I could see how this would be difficult on a pad, for sure.
Oh, believe me, I was sweating bullets trying to do any of this with the pad the first times I tried the game.
80% perfect, that's not bad.
I like how once again we have a high downforce in a race car, but it's nothing but like completely planted or anything. I can see the car moving around a lot when you're taking those corners.
I do think it's a bit exaggerated. Like, I'm not a complete fan of it. I like the super planted feel. But it's definitely fun. And again, I'm flying completely blind here. I do not know this track. So I'm looking at the chevrons because that's kind of a hint of what my speed should be. And then looking past them into the corner. So we passed, but I want another lap at that.
Yeah, I agree. Eva, fictional tracks sometimes are very good, and it's a shame that people in Sims scoff so much fictional tracks. Sim dads would have a fit for sure, don't you think, Austin? If we had more fictional tracks in sim games?
Or more fake tracks.
Yeah.
Some aren't completely terrible. Like, to Forza's credit, some of the stuff in Forza 7's really good, and it flows nice too.
No, it is. That's what we were saying. we could have more fictional tracks in sim games, but the sim dads would be pissed.
Well, I mean, we got to run at Laguna Seca for what, the 10,000th time?
Yeah, exactly. I was pretty happy when someone actually did Grand Valley for our fact. I was like, yeah. Because yeah, like you said, some tracks, some fictional tracks have a great rhythm, a great flow. And let's face it, real world tracks are getting worse. And sometimes these weird tracks around mountains and stuff are really cool. Oh yeah, Trial Mountain was a great track in Gran Turismo.
Thank you for the guy in the chat who said to brake at the orange marks, because that seemed to improve things a whole bunch. It definitely sucks to be like driving by the chevrons instead of watching the track, because I feel I'd do better if I could just look at the track, but it is what it is. That was a 90% perfect run, so getting the hang
That's
of
a
it.
good suggestion. Yeah, Austin, you should tell SMS to model the Seaside Route 765, just like in Ridge Racer. I mean, it's Bandai, right? Bandai Namco.
Actually, that's not a completely terrible suggestion. So, here's a confession. I've never actually played Ridge Racer. Is there, I guess for the chat, is there a good game to start with? Whether it's on PS1 or PS2?
Yeah, chat, what do you think? I think Ridge Racer 5, I think it was in PS2 also. Wasn't R4? Ridge Racer 4? Alright, I have a suggesting Ridge Racer 4 and then Ridge Racer Revolution. I think those two are for PlayStation 2, right? If I remember correctly. Yeah, Ridge Racer Type 4.
Oh wow, that's not Spa at all. When did Type 4 come out? Was that the very first one for PS2? From like 2000? Or 1999, I think?
I think the Type 4 was the first for PS2, yeah. I
Okay.
remember it had this... Gosh, I played the first Ridge Racer. Oh, okay, our Type 4 is for PS1, and
Okay.
then the 5 is the first one for PS2, okay.
Okay.
I played the very first one in the arcades. Now I'm betraying how old I am, but yeah. And it was, well, it was something back then, that's for sure.
One thing I was watching the other day was a tool-assisted speedrun of one of the, I think it was like the first Ridge Racer on PSX. And I
Yeah,
can't...
that's basically the first one I played, yeah.
So, I know at least on the 360 it was kind of like an on-rails drifting. Is that the whole game in general, is just on-rails? Kind of this... Because anytime I watch footage of it, it looks... All the Ridge Racer games look a bit strange to me.
Yeah, they became, well, they were definitely arcade, and I think they became more slidey arcades the more they went on.
Okay.
The first one I remember was a bit more on rails, like you said, or at least they tried to go more for the feeling of trying to drive the thing, because a real car, because it was, well, in the dawn of the 3D graphics, and they still wanted to go a bit more on the simulation or whatever kind of thing. Then they became more drifty, I think.
You need a real PS2 to play it. RRV doesn't like emulators. Well, that's good because I have a backwards compatible PS3. And I seem to have gotten an S rank on Sector 3. Okay, that Jaco, that actually sounds kind of interesting. I'll have to give that a shot. I mean, I do have... I'd have to check, but I mean, I do have a PS1 emulator that I play somewhat regularly. And now that Emu Paradise is down, it might be a bit more difficult to find the Ridge Racer ROMs. But yeah, I'll have to give that a shot. That sounds not too bad. But weird.
Emu Paradise is down? Really?
Yeah, they went down a few months back. Chat might know more details about it, but I know it was a big thing because Nintendo really cracked down on just ROMs in general.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there was... from what I understand, the Nintendo Switch is really easy to mod. So the MU Paradise ROM downloading scene was basically killing their virtual console because you could just get any Nintendo game for free on MU Paradise with one click, right? So they finally put a stop to it. Yeah, Nintendo cracked down really, really hard within the past few months.
Oh, that sucks. I mean, yeah, the Nintendo ROMs and whatever, but yes, I was more thinking about these ISOs for PlayStation 1 and 2 that nobody cares anymore. That's the real shame.
Yeah, but like I said, it was the whole site, and guys have figured out ways to like go back with the Wayback Machine and download off the MU Paradise website just by using like the old links, because apparently all the links are still up. You just can't access them on the site. Like the whole, I guess, the server's been unaffected. The download links have been unaffected. They've just had to manually go to like every game's download link and just say this download's unavailable. But guys have literally written like entire web pages to be like, type in the name of your game, type in your app. It'll like comb through the database, spit out a link for you, and then you download. Like it's crazy what they've done.
That's the spirit.
It's like I was on there the other day because I wanted to get a Richard Burns Rally for PS2 and maybe do a playthrough that one night or do a couple stages or a couple rallies, and like it was like multiple steps just to get something off their archives. But like it apparently worked, and like that's how people are doing it now. It's fucking crazy. Link to that. Let me find this. This is gonna be a bit difficult.
Yeah, retro gaming is now such a big thing that indeed there's more crackdown on ROMs now than it was 10 years ago.
Emu Paradise link generator. So this is gonna be a pain in the ass to work, and I don't completely know how to work it. But there you go. I'll toss that to the chat, and you'll literally see it's like type in the name of your game, search it. It's impressive. It really, really is.
Oh, their servers. Yeah, I wonder how long they will be up, because they for sure need a lot of space.
I mean, like, I see both sides of it, right? Like, it sucks because retro games are starting to go up in price. Like, I have a third-party game store at my local mall that sells a lot of shit, and like, I would much rather torrent an ISO of like one of the old Need for Speed games rather than pay $20 for it, because at that point, like, let's be honest, a lot of these games you can't play for more than an hour or two without getting incredibly bored, especially the PS1 era, because it is dated now. It's unfortunately getting to that point, and it's hard to put down $15 or $20 on a game that you know you're going to be playing for an hour and never touch again, and it'll just take up space in your room, right? But I do see the publisher side of it. I see the developer side of it, that it's like shitty, but it's tough. It really is. So
Yes, especially if it's just for games alone. I mean, I can understand the retro gaming with selling you the whole machine, you know, some portable thing,
yeah,
but just the game. So what are you gonna do now?
I'm gonna try and take on the whole track, because apparently I got an S rank in stage 3. And again, all these past ranks you see, this is 100% safe, so it's not reflective of what I've done. So I haven't actually done this challenge yet, but
Yeah, and look at the track there, how complicated it looks.
you know, like, it looks scarier on the track map than it actually is. It kind of reminds me of like Spa in a way, especially the final portion. See if we can get an S rank on this challenge. That'll be our goal, I guess. You can definitely four-wheel drift this car. I do not know if that's what they were doing in prototypes from this era. Jury's still a bit out on that, but
Well, it could technically let them slide a bit, but of course, that wouldn't be the most effective way around a track if you know the track exactly. I guess in this case it only shows that it's a bit compliant over the limit. Which reminds me, I never did physics for an LMP, this sort of era car.
What would be interesting, especially for like a mod on a race department, would just be the Audi R8, because that car competed for so many seasons under so many different championships and was generally regarded as the most dominant Le Mans prototype car ever, the R8 LMP 900. So even just a one-car mod would be really, really interesting to see.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any model of it even. Maybe someone ported it from some game like this, who knows.
Well, I know for a fact, do you remember the Sports Car Challenge mod? It was like SCC 99 to 02. It was one of the very first R Factor mods.
Oh yeah.
That might have what you're looking for.
Yeah, that was made by VLM also.
And,
yeah, of course, P-Cars 2 has it, right?
yeah, so it's definitely out there on one of those Russian sites. I actually,
Yeah,
and you know what? I actually think the Audi R8 LMP 900 in P-Cars 2 and P-Cars 1 is one of the better cars in the game. That's something I really enjoy driving.
Yeah, it's actually, you know, that's, I would say, in my opinion, P-Cars 2, some of the best cars modeled in that game are the LMP 900s, actually.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them too, aren't there?
Yeah, there's that one, there's the BMW, the Ferrari 353 SP, and I don't know if it's the Bentley or something else. The Bentley was a GT, but it ran in the same class. You know, those and the late GT1 cars, they are very, very well done, I think. The Ferrari, the R8, they are very realistic in terms of what I can see a car like that would do on the track. Some of the best stuff in P-Cars 2 for sure. If I can be totally honest, and I told you this many times, I can tell to the chat.
Yep.
I think P-Cars 2 is not very good in terms of the old stuff, like
I agree.
60s and 70s, but those late 90s, early 2000s prototypes and single-seaters, definitely that's the best stuff in terms of racing cars in the game.
So how much do you think it's down to just a lack of data? Or just bad interpretations? Or I shouldn't say bad, but everyone, as you said, you kind of do have to guess stuff. And you have to kind of extrapolate from data you don't have. How much of that do you think inhibits the development of 60s cars, not just P-Cars 2, but across sim racing? Because it seems like every time a dev puts out something from the 60s, whether it be a SCCA Trans Am car, a Grand Prix car, it's always so different than what you see from another dev making the same car. Why do you think that is? Just lack of data?
Also that, you know that I was bitching about the fact that, you know, every dev seems to think that the 1960s or 70s Formula 1 car had a full adjustable differential, and we know, if we look at, you're gonna try again, yeah, we know that this is not the case, and there's data to support this. What I think happens, more than the lack of data, which is understandable, of course, it's the fact that it polarizes opinions, these kinds of cars. Some people think they should be hard to drive. Some people think that they should be really, you know, soft and sluggish like some old Cadillac. It's like, you know, there's not many people around who actually drove them, and unless you go to historic events and ask the drivers there, but that's a shit ton of work for the devs, and I know the devs cut corners, but it's harder to cut the corner in a car that has to move a lot more than it is for a high downforce car. You can mask a lot of problems in your physics with downforce and the stiff suspension, while, you know, a car that has to move a lot more over their own suspension, which the tires were, you know, a lot more slidey and a lot less grippy. It demands a lot more time to get it right. You have to you have to really put the laps in to test. And I think that's where a lot of devs fail. At least I think that's where P-Cars 2 failed, because I honestly didn't see the team with enough time to take care of all those cars. And if we go back in time, in the 60s and all that, of course they had less data to work on, and they had to make something compliant, even for the general public. And I think devs, and attention, I'm talking about devs here, I'm not talking about modders, I'm talking about devs. Devs tend to try to make the old cars not hard to drive, which means that they cannot, of course, have a massive transfers of weight or something that would upset a lot more if you use a gamepad. So they tend to cut corners on that. They just make something, okay, that's it. I can give the best example that comes to my mind. It's the Lotus 79, which every dev seems to think the damn thing would go on rails everywhere, and this is not true. If you look at footage of the time, you can see Mario Andretti and Peterson, whatever, coming out of corners with the car sliding and the rear wheel going up the curbs even. It wasn't a car that was driving on rails at all. And yeah, I think more than the lack of data is definitely a mix of not enough testing time and just trying to make something compliant and that you can pick up for the people to drive. Yes, and that's exactly it, JC. A lot of the people who drive, a lot of the sim races just think that these cars should be hard to drive or should have some inherent, slidey, almost dangerous kind of feel that trumps everything else. You hear real drivers saying when they try these cars, they say, oh no, this is really fun and really gives you confidence and all that, but people seem to think the opposite.
Well, we said we're going for S rank and we're almost there.
Yeah, we've been. At least I've been looking you going around while I go here in my rant. But I think, what I think is worse, actually, and just to finish the topic here on this, your question, I think what it's really, really hard to do for devs and for anybody actually, it's bias ply tires. Bias ply tires are very badly understood. The people everybody seems to have a different opinion about them. It's really, really more a dev's opinion or interpretation of reality of what they think a bias ply tire is than actually anything else. That's why they drive so different from sim to sim, because, or even from mod to mod, because you pick one and okay, this is this guy's interpretation of what the bias ply tire is, and this one is this other guy.
So how do you go about modeling bias ply tires for whenever you have to make some mods?
Well, of course, there's certain ballparks that you can be in the middle of. Of course, there's certain values that we know are realistic in terms of slip angles or in terms of load sensitivity, or at least the direction of those values. But then what I did was, I ran a lot of tests, and I'm talking thousands of laps until I got some base from bias plies right. And when I say right, I mean looking at a lot, as enough data as I could get, data in terms of lap times, data in terms of speeds, data in terms of G-forces that I could muster, tons of onboards, and also especially the whole, analyzing footage. Analyzing footage is very important, especially period footage, because the tires that they use today in some historic events are not exactly the same as they used back then. So you have to analyze a lot of footage until you see, okay, is the car, when I'm driving around and I look at the replay or I look at other people driving live, which is better than just watching the replay. Is the car doing the same thing? Is the car reacting like I'm seeing there, or like the people describe, the drivers describe? You know, it's really a process of continuous testing until you get the results that are as close to possible or to the reality as you can get. I usually have various variants of tires that I'm testing, sometimes with very little differences in terms of numbers that can have huge differences in the inputs that you need to keep the car on the track. And you know, it's really a science in itself, because every game and every tire model reacts different to the same numbers, and you really need to be on the park, and you really need to go to the track and be a driver that you can at least push close to the limit, so you know what the car is doing. And you know, the bias ply tires, people forget that they were hugely compliant, and they had more grip than most people think, because the problem with bias ply tires wasn't the grip. They had grip. The problem was that they didn't have, you know, enough load sensitivity or load resistance, should I say. And it's not that they were not oh wait a minute, no, I'm gonna rephrase this. The bias ply tires, they don't have as much grip as a radial tire in the beginning, but they don't change the grip as much with load, because basically they already don't have much grip to begin with. It's more a case of this. Yes, it's true, JCO. You're very right. In the ISI motor, the only physics change that you do in cars that you need to restart the whole game, it's tire changes. When I would change anything in a tire, I had to restart the whole game so I can drive the difference. And,
what do you mean by that?
That, for example, if I change a wing or if I change some other number in the physics file, I can just go back to the track from the menu and it's already there in the car. But if I change the tires, the game doesn't assume it. I need to get out of the game and reboot the game again.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so that makes the testing even longer. So you can imagine, you can imagine how much time I put up in the past with testing tires. It's insane. Even now, even today, I tested the last version of the F171 tires that I'm going to put out with the final version of the mod that's going to come out at the end of the year. So you see, and sometimes it's a never-ending process, because this bit and this bit could be a little bit better, always. And it really is hard, and fortunately for me I already have a big library of tires that I tested and I know are more or less okay. And and I can pick one and just start from there, but it really is a hard process, and test time, like I say, it's invaluable. It really is. You need to put the car on the track, you need to see where it goes, and it really, like you started with your question, bias ply tires are very badly understood because there's no data at all, basically, and people have their own interpretations of what it was or what it used to be, and everybody does their own way, and it's really hard to be an all-rounder in terms of modding. Like we were discussing in P-Cars 2, the late 90s, early 2000 cars are great, but the 60s bias ply tires cars are not that good at all. And even with other games, it's a bit of hit and miss. I like, for example, the new tires that RUF CTR 2 came out with, those 75, 76 Formula 1 cars. I think they're good, actually. Some of the best bias ply stuff I tried in SimRacing.
And yet here I've uninstalled RUF CTR 2. I just can't get into it.
Well, I don't blame you, I don't blame you, because just as I said this, I remember I tried to race the AI around Lime Rock without chicanes or anything in those cars, and they kept crashing.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, and while me, once again not wanting to boast but boasting, in the F171 I was able to adjust the AI that they ran beautifully in Lime Rock at AMS. but once again, it's, you know, it's a matter of time, and that's why the whole, you know, jack of all trades sim sucks so much usually, because you need time to make anything work, and when you have hundreds of cars and tens of tracks, it's.
But of course, if you look at something like ACC, which does focus in on just one series, on just one set of tracks, the Steam charts performance is not good.
No, it has been one of the, let's say, the big last hype on sim racing that is deflating, and I guess the problem with ACC, and I don't want to be mean, but I think they chewed more than they could bite, because, you know, it's not easy. They boasted about having a much more complex physical model now, but you must remember that with more complexity means you have to be more on the ball in terms of physics knowledge and for what you can do with the game. And you know, it's not easy. It's not easy to create something like that, especially with such complicated cars. Because let's not think that modern GT3s are not complicated. They are complicated cars, and yeah, and of course you can never please everybody. And I think their first outing of the game was really poor in terms of physics, because. And you said it in yourself in the video, the car was not compliant at all. It was just either on rails or sliding, which I think is an AC trait, but it got worse actually with this new game. And I do wonder if they can turn it around in some way. I mean, they say that people are more happy with the revisions they are getting now. But once again, we have to ask ourselves, are the revisions because they found something, because they learned how to work a bit better with the game, or are they just chasing the tails or just trying to please people because the first iteration of this early access was so poorly received? I mean, I tried the game myself. I wasn't impressed. I thought indeed that the tires lacked any sort of compliance, or they were just too stiff, too on-off. They entered this slide mode that AC has way too quickly, and it was impossible to come back from it. And yeah, and crucially, I couldn't drive the car by feel. It felt very iRacing, and that's not fun. That's the problem. You know, when you mentioned Guitar Hero in your video, and this kind of physics, like the iRacing physics, make it look even or feel even more like Guitar Hero, that you have to just memorize every corner, every braking point, every speed around the corner.
Every input, every shift point, every turn-in point, like that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, Ivan, people were all over ACC, yes, but if I remember correctly, even the biggest supporters of AC, like Gamer Muscle, were not impressed at all. I mean, people were saying, I mean, random call sign that the YouTubers were saying were not impressed. They felt the game it lacked development. They didn't like the force feedback. They didn't like how the car was behaving on the track. They were not being that praiseful about ACC. And let me put this straight. I don't want ACC to fail because I want more games dedicated to one series. I think that's the correct way, and I think that at least they have the chance to do something good because it's indeed just one series. But let's see if they can.
So I'm gonna give this one more attempt here, because this literally is Guitar Hero.
Yes, you're having a hard time with that one.
Well, we passed with an A rank, and I wanted S because I'm kind of a perfectionist that way, but I don't want to bore the chat. And there are some sweet combinations I want to get to. I want to get to the CTR Yellowbird here at the Nurburgring.
Oh yeah, we all want to see that, don't we, chat? Austin taking out the Nordschleife with the Yellowbird, just like the old video from the 80s.
What's funny is this force feedback, the more I drive it, the more I think it's just really, really good.
Really? Tell us more, man.
I'm having a lot of fun with this. Like it's frustrating that this is a mini game and stuff because I just want to like open this car up, but yeah, the FFB, the driving's not perfect, but like it's kind of fun. It's got that slidiness to it, which I don't think a downforce car should have, but
Well, it depends. Like I said, I never did an LMP physics, but if I remember correctly, these kinds of cars, they had some good mechanical grip, but they didn't have that much downforce as a Group C or anything like that because they were very limited in terms of regulations, and they were more created for Le Mans, right? So they needed to be a bit more slippery and not so much downforcey or
that's
draggy.
true.
So I would expect them, you know, and just like it happens actually in P cars, the Ferrari and all that, they are cars that they slide a bit. They're not completely on rails, and that's why I think P cars 2 did a good job with those cars. Perfect, 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 perfect. It's so satisfying when you see all those perfects.
Yeah, like it's probably been a bit fun to watch because it's not like I'm a complete bumbling mess in here. So that's going to be an A rank and not an S, so I failed my goal, but like that's pretty fun. That's a neat little mini game. I don't think people would like this kind of mode, and I don't think it helps you learn a track. It really is just a mini game. But I could see this being something in like AC2 as just like a diversion, kind of like how they have a time trial and drift mode.
That reminds me how you yourself and more people praised the driving school that even GTR2 had, that we don't have nothing of the sort these days. Oh, you're watching the explanation of this bars thing.
Yeah, I must have clicked a button by accident. So, and you know what?
Try the Yellowbird now?
Yeah, I couldn't find the dumb challenges the dude was talking about. Of course, hit the wrong button again. I'm still trying to stumble my way through this menu. Return to title. That's probably the button. No, if someone could find like the challenge you're talking about, I would absolutely love to do it. The throttle stuck open or something like that. So in the meantime, we are going to go to the Nürburgring.
They say it's the very last stage, the one labeled challenge in flashing letters, but I guess we can check that later. Yes, this game only had 2 real tracks, and one was Tsukuba and the other was in Nordschleife. So basically the 2 tracks that probably were randommost in the Gran Turismo 4 game. Now this is going to be a very interesting challenge because, you know, if we all remember the video, the guy was really power sliding and drifting this thing around the ring. And it will be interesting to see what the car does in game.
Well, I think I'll do 2 laps. We'll do the out lap, and then we'll do the second time lap and really push hard. But we are off. I guess you're about 10 seconds back. But
yeah, here we are off now.
So the first thing I kind of notice is that it's not a complete death trap, but it's definitely loose.
And the ring here actually looks very cloudy and dark, and the music that plays in the ring is a special music I think that they did, which kind of lasts the whole lap.
Yeah, it's definitely drifty and slidey like you see in the video. I'm trying to keep the rear end in check, but it's kind of sketchy.
Yeah, and this car is once again another car that is an AC, in which, honestly, I consider it, well, dangerous, tricky to the maximum in AC at least. It's not an easy car to drive there at all, especially if we pick the supposedly 80s or 90s street tires.
So here's something interesting that I think people should look up as we're doing these laps, is what real lap time did this car run here? So we'll see how close we can get.
Yeah, does anybody has that time? I think that time is known. I can try to search for it myself.
Definitely more planted than the AC version. Like, I'm not completely struggling, and even if you look at the speeds I'm hitting. And that's why we use this as an outlap. Decent save. That would have made the YouTube tourist compilation.
For sure. If you want a reference for the next lap, this car they did 8 minutes 5 seconds around.
That seems doable. This is a really fun car to drive right now. Like I said, I do wish there was more throttle control. You'll just see me mat the thing.
Yeah, but once again, I bet that we are not seeing, which is the steering input is moving a lot.
Oh yeah.
You see, indeed, as I look this car lapping around, I can indeed see, the slip angle, how, compliant it should be. I mean, it's a road car with road tires. It shouldn't be a drift monster, but it shouldn't also be something on rails or something that just snaps and kills you. It definitely wasn't in that video, so.
Feels like a 60s GP car from like Grand Prix Legends. Just heavier. And there's a massive pendulum on the rear end, so even though the car does get set, the rear end will continue swaying in one direction, like a half second longer than it should. Or than you want it to, I should say.
That sounds about right. Completely synced JCO. Yeah, one thing I should point out to the chat and everybody's watching, it's like teams, at least on road courses and especially with high-powered cars, they go to great lengths to maximize traction. And for example, I can give you this example. I know for a fact that the Sauber C9 in '88 and in '88 for sure, and probably in '89 too, they ran without a rear anti-roll bar in all tracks except Silverstone because they wanted to maximize the traction of the car as much as possible. Ivan is saying that this game has more simulation value than iRacing.
I mean, driving-wise, he's not wrong. There doesn't seem to be tire wear, so there's that, but...
Yeah, does it? I'm not sure if there was tire wear in the, in the career mode or something. There isn't tire wear in iRacing either.
Yeah, well, no, there is. It's just way too sensitive. Where it's to the point where if you run 2 laps and there's a yellow flag that comes out, it's better to pit.
So there's too much tire wear, that's what you mean?
Oh yeah. The only thing that's throwing me off right now is the 3D model of the Nurburgring is a bit off. And it's not just because of the 16:9 stretched width. The track isn't completely perfect, but it's close enough.
Yeah, it wasn't as good for sure as the Gran Turismo one, which, let's face it, it's good even by today's standards.
Yeah, that was completely ahead of its time.
Yes, I would classify this Enthusia version as maybe similar to a good R Factor version, probably R Factor 1 version back in the day. It was good back in the day, but the Gran Turismo one, it looked laser scan even then. So
This very much reminds me of the Race 07 GTR Evolution version, where it's almost smoothed out in a way to make for better racing.
oh yeah,
I don't know if the chat members have played Race 07 or GTR Evo, but their version of the ring is really good, and it's more detailed than this and kind of has the same art style. Another good save. But Simbin UK had really smoothed it out for basically so you could run any car in the game on it. Like you could take an F1 car, which you can't do on the Com8 version that everyone has for R Factor. You could take F1 cars, you could take Indy cars, Formula 3000 to the ring, and run the race and never have to deal with the car bottoming out a bunch or any of that kind of stuff.
well, that sounds about right.
So, coming up to the line here.
Well, but judging by the lap time, you can beat the real lap time. But then again, I guess you take a lot more risks.
So it's going to give me a 736, and it's going to kill it after that lap. But I did make mistakes, so I wonder if I can get under the 730s. And they'll actually start me at it's almost like a bridge to gantry format. You can't run a complete lap. They reset you. That's interesting.
Yeah, someone in the chat was saying that this game treats the ring as a point-to-point track, and indeed, he was right.
That's yeah, that's interesting. So I guess now we kind of know how this car drives. We can go a bit quicker. So hopefully a sub 730. My Esports Pro line right there.
Oh, you cheater.
It's funny because in more modern versions of the ring, and what's funny is I went a tenth slower. When some of the more modern versions, there's like a white part that you can cut there.
Yes. Yes, well, where do you think people were trying to cut the track in our F171 season this year? Of course.
One
Yeah,
thing...
Ivan,
No, you go.
no, I was just gonna tell him that indeed, I think they didn't have money to get more tracks. But say, what you gonna say, Austin?
One thing that surprised me about this car is just the speed. Like, I look down on some of these straightaways, and this game kind of doesn't have the greatest sense of speed to it. But I'm hitting 170, 180 miles, which is beyond GT3 cars for sure.
Yeah, the car had, you know, it's funny. I watched the Best Motoring where they put a lot of cars in the dyno, and although they announced 470 something horsepower for this car, it actually was pumping out 510. And of course, it doesn't have the wings or anything like you say GT3 car, so it's pretty quick in a straight line. Another car that had a lot of horsepower, it had I think 540 almost. It was the F40. they were lying a bit on the power of these two cars back in the day.
Yeah, the F40, from everything I've heard, was completely psychotic. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a good version of an F40 in a sim. Even with the Kunos version available, I don't think that car is very good. Even our version, I think our car could be a lot better.
Yeah, the Kunos version is a death trap. Your version is a bit of hit and miss. I think it drives a bit strange. And but I never tried the Gran Turismo version, so I cannot comment on that one. Yes, JCO says that if you turn the motion blur on and the game had it, it can help with the sense of speed.
Yes, you know what? I did turn that off. I think I was worried about the PS2 effects. Because it's on an emulator, I was worried they would get corrupted or something, and it wouldn't look nice. Because that'll happen from time to time in these.
Oh, okay, so you disable the effect.
Yep. It's the second time I've almost died on that corner. Just couldn't get the entry right.
Yeah, the track does look a bit wider. I don't know if it's just me or...
No, it's definitely a bit too wide, but I think that might have been for raceability. I'll need 3 seconds in this final portion of the track, or back half rather, so we're still only halfway. And even the carousel, which I just blew here, is a lot, what's the word I'm looking for, flatter? It's not as sharp.
Oh yeah, true. It's not nearly as banked as the real one. So you can't even stay on it because it slides so easily out of it.
And they're definitely like, I mean, I know the Nürburgring extremely well, and there are some, I guess, reference points I kind of miss because the track's so wide. But this is a half decent lap.
You see, that's the thing. You know, I think, well, AC definitely missed the ballpark in some of the road cars, and I think P cars 2 also in a way. So some cars are good in P cars 2, some are not. Ironically, the 959, I think it's pretty good in P cars 2, actually. But some of the other road cars are not so good. And I don't know, it's like, you would expect that people would actually do a better job with the road car, because actually you have more data for those than you have for racing cars, but that's not the case with devs.
I wonder how much is just down to tires at the end of the day. You're always chasing
much.
tire model revisions, which, I mean, it makes me a hypocrite because I bitch all the time about tire model revisions, but there are some games that truly do need it.
No, for sure, because like I was saying to someone, I think yesterday, a road tire is something that it's really, well, it's something that is really tricky to do in a game, because road cars have to work while you're driving on time attack mode, but they also have to work while you're just goofing around and drifting and all that.
Yeah.
And you know, you need even more work and even more time to do a good road tire, and yeah, that's definitely something that the sim devs are actually behind games like this one, or even like maybe GT Sport. Is it Forza 7 getting reworked physics, Babbitt?
Yeah, they don't plan on releasing another Forza this console generation, so the team, what Turn 10 have basically said they've been doing is the next year they're going to spend reworking it. And this is everything from PC force feedback to just track limit revisions, all kinds of interesting stuff.
Oh, that sounds good.
$730. Wanted to break into the 20s, but I think on this kind of track and with this, I mean, this is the first time I've really played this game in about 6 or 7 months. I think that's not too bad.
Well, the car at least did seem to drive pretty well around here, and if you had fun and you were convinced with the experience.
Well, yeah, and I can show the first, let's say, first 2 minutes of the lap here, and you'll see there's the flow that you see on the YouTube videos of this car that everyone's shared a billion times by now. There's definitely a smoothness even powering out of the corners here that really reflects how this car behaved. I'm not sure if it's completely accurate, and I know the wheel spin again, I am just matting it. It's definitely in that window of realism where I think the majority of people would really like this.
Ah, that's cool. It goes sideways like that. And once again, we are extremely lucky to be able to play this. I mean, you be able to play this with your own wheel.
Yeah.
Like, almost like if it's a computer game. Yeah, the track is definitely too wide. Look how lost the car
Absolutely.
looks.
Yeah, that's a 3-lane highway right there. That's not the Nürburgring, that's the fucking Autobahn. But one of the reasons they I think they widened the track here is because this is actually where the iRating and safety rating concept was born. Maybe not iRating because iRating is just elo rank, but the idea that the game would track incidents per sector and basically give you a safety rating at the end of each race, and that was kind of how you leveled up, was by being a safe driver. So I think for them to include the ring, from a game design standpoint, it would be too punishing to have this whole system in this game, especially when this is completely brand new and no one's ever done it before. This isn't the pre-iRacing days. To have this super punishing system that says if you put a wheel off track, we're gonna ding you good boy points, and then send people to the ring. I don't think people were ready for that, and it was something that would come much later.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, once again, yeah, because with that system, you couldn't just barge people out of the way like in Gran Turismo, right? So it does look so smooth, the car going around. You know, it really is something, because we can see that it's sliding ever so slightly, but it looks so convincing, you know. It's really interesting. The replays, like I say, the replays sometimes show a lot of things, and indeed, the car, you know, it seems to just glide around these corners, and you were working a lot more than that.
Yeah, I mean, thinking back, like, when you look at this lap from a third-person vantage point, like you said, the car is just so smooth, it's gliding everywhere. But I think if you could see some of my wheel inputs, especially as coming up in about 10 seconds here, when I go into the left-hander at downhill next to the town, I am left, right, seesawing on the wheel like it's a trip. But I think we've been doing this for 2 hours. We might as well do one more little stint here.
Wanna try
Let's.
the challenge?
Yeah,
What you were saying?
that sounds interesting. I think I know which one he's talking about too. So let's see what kind of crazy shit there is. There's like a 360 smart car. The throttle, brake, and shift controls are not functional. Use e-brakes to drift through the first corner. Counter steer to drift. Some of these sound fucking crazy. And I've definitely done these during my own playthrough. So some of these sound pretty familiar. So, again, my controls are locked here. That's really interesting. I forgot how unique these were. So I'm having the Scandinavian flick the car into the corner.
Hey, you can't slow down.
Well, I got my feet off the pedals right here. This is some shit, man.
It's crazy Japanese way out.
But like, I see the kind of skills they're trying to teach. Oh man, that's difficult.
It doesn't seem easy at all, huh? And let's not forget, once again, you're driving this with a wheel, not with the gamepad.
Yep. I wonder if I'm approaching this wrong, if I'm trying to drift when I shouldn't be, or I should be,
Maybe, yeah, maybe you should just try to be as smooth as possible.
yeah, or flick it just a bit to get the... Man, I'm like, you really have to think about your line, because you have to think when you want to scrub off speed.
Yeah, it's not easy because you ran out of...
Wow.
You slide off the track. You really need to slow down.
I mean, I feel like I'm going to hit this. I know I've passed it before. This is... Like, this is... Wow.
Maybe you should do some sort of late entry in this. Yeah, they say that it gives you tips when you fail. Maybe you should try to read those, who knows. Oh, this one was close.
Yeah, I barely missed nicking those two gates, and it probably passed me here. Nope, it'll give me a D. Definitely close, though.
D, just like back to school, huh?
Yep.
And you know, the selection of cars was like going faster and faster. The last is the Caterham, which must be really hard to do this on.
We're gonna hit this, and it's gonna be pretty epic.
Ah, damn it. That was not far off.
That was a unique line I took. Don't do that
Maybe
one.
Maybe we should try to hug the inside a bit more.
Yeah, and just and not look where I'm going to some extent. Wow. This is... Like, if you have a copy of Enthusia or you got a PS2 emulator going and you typically play other stuff, this might be worth a shot. Oh, shit. We're definitely getting there.
It's like you almost have to drift the thing around.
No, you do, and I think that's what they're trying to encourage here. Especially because they do put you in some sort of a tuner car.
Yes, chat, please cue the Eurobeat.
Well, the funny part is, I don't actually know, not that I don't know, but I'm not very good at drifting.
Well, it's a whole different thing, right? So please, conjure your inner weeaboo.
Oh, I hate my life that we were so close to it hooking in it. Clip the grass.
Oh, you're right.
Yep.
That one was...
Wow. I want to pass this one, though.
Dude, it's really hard, huh?
Even just getting, like, the entry line right.
And we can see now that if you indeed keep your foot down and you try to steer, you're gonna spin. So the game, although you know it's compliant, it has its limits, and beyond that, you actually spin under power.
Oh, I like that line too. And I zigged when I should have zagged. I wonder if I scrub off speed by... Ah, shit. Like I'm saying at the start, if you whip the wheel sideways...
You try to slow down before the corner.
Yep. This must be horrible viewing material, but again, this is one of Enthusiast's most, I would say, unique challenges. Wow.
Nah, yeah, definitely worth watching this one, because what game has this, right? Your throttle is stuck. Good luck with that.
Just trying to figure out the line it wants, because I mean, you can't really control your line. You can't brake to.
It really needs the perfect line around.
I really should have taken the Miata one and started with that first, so maybe that's a smart idea.
What, it's slower than this, yeah.
Yeah,
So.
let's try the Miata first, and then progress upwards.
Yeah, indeed, Jimmy Broadbent spent 3 hours to get the golds on one GT3 license test only.
Was that a... I don't know if that's sarcasm or not. Was that something that actually happened in the stream?
I think it was, yeah, I think it was. Yeah, B8? Yeah, I know it was one, yes. Oh, so this is the Miata one.
Yep.
It's not, well...
Doesn't want to break sideways for me.
Yes, in this case you really have to tighten the corner somehow.
Wow. Yeah,
But it doesn't want to slow down. Oh, they say you can use the handbrake on this one.
Yes, you can. Good call, my man.
Yeah, thanks for that one. But I guess you have to use it in the right moment. Almost there, almost there.
Yeah, that's especially because the button's on the wheel. It's like almost got to the pass line. Run that one again. Yeah, that's I guess I stress the word is unique. That's it's almost like a puzzle game at that point. And we are too far off the line. I think I'm just trying to flick the car more than I need to be. Yeah, that was the issue. So that'll end up being a perfect run right there. So that's one down, got 3 more to go. I wonder, actually, oh wow, that was a S rank too. I wonder if the other challenges you could use the e-brake, because that could be the issue.
Maybe, but I wonder. No.
Oh wow, and they disable it here. They want you to flick the car sideways.
Yeah, exactly. So now it's only up to flicking it around. Which gotta be, let's be honest, it has to be maybe one of the hardest tasks I ever seen in a driving game.
How'd we pass that one like 3rd try? S rank 2.
Yeah, but that was a good effort, but indeed it's interesting what they try to teach you there with this.
The only issue I have is that the wheels aren't spinning all the time. Why did I click retry? Ah, screw it, let's do it again. That was fun.
Unless you want to try the last one just to scare yourself.
No, I think we can, oh, not level select. I think we can go to stage 3 again. Do I have e-brake? No, I do not. Alright. Ah, so fucking close. It tagged the grass, but I think you do need to use the rumble strip here. Oh, that is close. Man, if I counter steer at all on entry, you have to set the car just right.
And
oh, that'll
again,
be close.
You are on the wheel. Imagine how hard this would be in the gamepad.
I feel this would be easier on a pad because you could go lock to lock quicker.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, they really want me to scrub off speed going into the corner here.
Yeah, you seem to always run out of track.
Yep. It really wants you to keep counter steering and scrubbing off speed through the corner.
Yeah, the corner is longer than what you would think, because these barriers, they go to the outside of the corner way too soon.
Are we going to get a run there? Right at the line. Is that going to be a pass? I don't think so, but... Oh, it gave me a D, but I don't want D. That's not good enough. So we've done it once.
Yeah, JC is right. You have that steering assist thing with the pad, so going lock to lock with the gamepad will take a second. The game wouldn't just allow you to go from lock to lock instantly.
There we go. Perfect run. On to stage 4.
That was pretty neat. Very well done. And that's why you are on top of leaderboard so much.
I can imagine the final stage with... Is it the Caterham or the Panos? We're going to see.
Caterham?
Yeah, it's a Caterham. It's so close to the Panos Esperante. Oh my goodness. That is slightly too fast. Wow. It is like playing the last challenge in fast forward. No, didn't flick it sideways enough there. I feel like this car is easier to drift. You just have to hit the line really tight.
But you can use the handbrake again.
Oh my god! That was such a beautiful run, and I just completely choked.
Yeah, the second to last one.
I hate my life. That was beautiful.
And you didn't even need to use the handbrake because you're allowed to use it on this one.
You are?
Yeah, you are.
Oh my god,
Doesn't have the forbidden lock there, so you can.
Oh, fuck. Wiggled. Okay, let's not choke this time, because this is a similarly good run. And we choked. Lost too much speed. Fuck me. I stress that this is the easiest car to drift because it just is so quick and it's so light.
Well, it drifts a lot in real life, so once again, it seems to be according to that.
And you know what? It's easier to drift this car without the handbrake than with it. Nope, choke. Yeah, and when you apply the handbrake mid-corner, it just understeers. So that must be the trick, is they activate it to kind of trick you and make you think you need to run with the handbrake.
The sneaky Japanese bosses, huh?
Yeah, dude, like, they don't fuck around in terms of challenges. Like, this is the country that gave us that most extreme elimination challenge, at least for the Americans watching.
Oh yeah, for European watching, it's Takeshi's Castle.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, and they overdub those stupid voiceovers. Oh,
yes.
fuck. Clip the curb. Now, did you have the same personalities, or did they give them UK voices?
Well, we had, well, in the Portuguese TV, we had that they also dubbed them.
That's what I'm thinking. Did you have, like, the American dub? I forget their names.
No, we had our own dub.
Okay. And it's set awkwardly through the center of the corner. I'm so close. I want to get this perfect. This is a fun challenge. Ah, fuck. So satisfying to drift these cars.
Yeah, they do, don't they? And they also did, also a bit too wide, but they also did some Japanese night mountain pass. There's a road like this for the Takumi and the Initial D crowd. There's various videos on the internet of people drifting around there.
In Enthusia?
Oh yes.
What track is that called? That might be fun.
I think it's the Dragon something.
Run's looking alright. Fuck me, lost too much speed. Lost too much speed again. I mean, we've passed this already, so it's not a big deal, but I think it'd be pretty sweet to combo this whole corner. Miss. I guess it matters if the front tires hit it and not the back. Couple more tries and we'll move on to something else. There is something really funny in this game that I want to take a few laps in.
Which is?
The Chevrolet Astrovan. The pinnacle.
Of the
And
family.
I choked again. No, there's one of the I guess attractions of this game were some of the oddball cars on the roster, especially in the lower end of things. And it's very much like AC, and eventually Forza is very big on their oddball cars as well. So there's like Astrovans, there's like station wagons, all kinds of like goofy shit. This is a promising run. No, it's not. I wiggled too much. But yeah, this is where the theme of putting in, I guess, meme cars, if you want to call them that, originally started from. Is Enthusia kind of chased after not just race cars and high performance sedans and stuff like that, but they went and got licenses for some really oddball shit. And I'll probably go through the low end of the car roster to show that off in a bit.
Yeah, unless you stay here all night trying to be perfect in this.
Okay, 2 more tries. Maybe it'll be clutch like earlier tonight for the Hotlap stuff. No, 1 more try. I mean, we passed it with like A or maybe S. Maybe I just didn't look, but nope, we're good. On to something else. Let's not waste people's time here. There are a couple of minivans and SUVs in here. You are absolutely correct. And we're gonna go mess around with one. I don't want to go full meme and take it to the Japanese drift course because, as you can see, I'm not very good at drifting. But we will absolutely do some short course time attack with it. Because there are a couple of decent little joints here. You know what? Let's go back to Autumn Hill. That's a fun track. We know that. We don't have to spend time learning it. So, sort by class. F. What kind of stupid shit do we got in here?
F for foolish.
The Subaru Young SS, the Beetle Type 1, the Citroen 2 CV4, and the Fiat 500F.
That's some mean old machines right there.
What's an E? E might have some... Oh, wow. Toyota Land Cruiser, Nissan Skyline 2000 GTR, another Nissan Skyline 2000, Toyota 2000 GT, Chrysler PT Cruiser. Ah, that wasn't Forza. That's not crazy enough. The DMC DeLorean. The beautiful Toyota Estima Hybrid.
Gets my juices flowing, that machine.
I won't scroll through every car. The Mazda Demio? Some of these cars I've never heard of.
The Demio was a car, it was sold in Europe.
Oh, okay. Oh wow, there are some complete pieces of shit in this game.
Of course, those super weird K cars, van stuff.
I mean, I've pretty much got my heart set on the Astrovan, but it's definitely neat to see just how weird this car roster gets on the bottom half. And again, there are some cars like
Smart is here, indeed. Oh, Sprite. Funny.
Now we get into some more interesting stuff. Aston Martin DBR5, Volkswagen SUVs, Mercedes-Benz G500, Land Rovers, a Nissan Elgrand, 2,000 kilos, 237 horsepower.
That sounds about right to move your family of 6 around.
I mean, you gotta think, if you put this kind of car list into something like Assetto Corsa and had some kind of online league, it would be pretty impressive.
That would be amazing. Are you joking? All those, people carriers and all that. Yes, the Chevy Astro versus the Estima.
Well, and then you'd get guys fucking around with like engine mods too, right? So guys would put like slicks on it and some kind of hybrid F1 motor or a LMP1 motor, and no one would have any grip, but that's okay because it just punches a big hole through the air and it just creates downforce. Kind of. But yeah,
I think it creates hurricanes.
You know what? The Honda Odyssey seems to be the superior van. Weighs 300 kilos less and puts out a lot more power by
Yep.
If we are, I think some of these vans, I don't know if this one, but some of them had actually CVT transmissions, so they don't have gears.
Gonna run the beautiful premium white pearl, although it's more of a tan paint scheme.
Premium white pearl, just right for the Japanese middle-class businessman. Yes, automatic or semi-automatic, obviously, because this thing was only in automatic.
Oh man, that thing just screams power at the start line. Look at that. And what's funny is this car is actually banned in Forza Motorsport Online for at least Forza 7, because they have a Honda Odyssey as well. And apparently just with the right combination of upgrades and all that.
What, becomes a monster machine?
Yeah, apparently it's pretty good, and it's so fucking big that it just bullies other cars. You know, this is
How
really
does that feel?
no different than Spec Miata, but goddamn, just the torque steer and the understeer on power is less than satisfactory. But I mean, there are guys who sim race and love minis, who love these low-powered front-wheel drive cars. So just tell yourself I'm driving a mini. It's not completely terrible.
And to think people bitch about the fact that they included, I think it was the Alpha SUV or whatever in AC.
Yeah, I
They
remember
don't know what
that.
they're missing.
It was, I think it was just some like family sedan really that AC threw in as like part of this DLC, and people got mad because like who'd want to drive that thing? Or no, there was a Porsche as well, wasn't there? Or a Jaguar SUV? Maybe I'm remembering wrong, but I think there was a Porsche SUV that no one wanted, and it was the free car as like the teaser of the Porsche pack. Or you know what? It was the Maserati. There's a Maserati like
Oh, yeah,
crossover,
that's right.
right?
The Maserati SUV, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, and everybody bitched around, but then you go and you have the YouTubers driving lawnmowers.
I never even thought of that. That's quite the observation. But one thing that I'd like to point out is we are making extremely good speed. We are not going to make this corner. And we bounced off it.
You killed
But
your family of 8.
yes, the
Yeah, put just for a second the outside view so people can see what you're driving, because maybe people didn't notice. Because we have 13 viewers now.
I'm trying to hotlap a stock Honda Odyssey.
Look at that machine, huh?
And you know what's really funny? Like, as funny as it is to sit here and shit on a van for not being good at track racing, there's a point on some of the laps where when I transition from the brake back to the gas, the car sets really well through the center of the corner. I'm by no means am endorsing a Honda Odyssey as a good track car, but like it rotates so perfectly through the center. And then right as you jump back to the gas, you're like, yep, I'm driving a minivan. But for that brief half a second, it's somewhat tolerable.
Well, I guess it surely proves that the physics engine of this is competent, at least. If you can feel dynamic stuff even driving this.
Yeah, sending it in the final complex is just, it feels so satisfying.
Still a bit far away from your lap times, but then again, the previous cars you brought here.
Well, yeah, we ran a 37 in the Super GT car here.
Yeah, something like that. This has 200 horsepower, right?
Yeah, it's like 209.
Yeah, but of course it's kind of heavy.
I would be interested to see what the Astrovan does here. So let's say we run a couple more laps, really balls out as much as the van lets us. We end the stream with a
the Astrovan to see if the vehicles first of all behave any different and if they're kind of balanced in a way.
That's a good idea. The super duel, to fade out the stream. What can be faster, the Honda Odyssey or the Chevy Astrovan?
Now, at least up here in Canada, the Chevy Astrovan was not that popular. It was actually the Chrysler Town & Country and the Dodge minivan that sold the most, and everyone had. Same with the Plymouth Voyager, same deal.
Oh, the Chrysler Voyager.
Yep.
Yeah, there are many of those here also.
And they're always in a really disgusting, like, metallic-y color, like that really light blue, or like beige, or like the dark burgundy.
Yeah, well, those colors were very popular in the 90s, right? Well, JC, you're saying remake Rallycross in the Madness engine, but I have to say that I was pretty impressed. We were talking about good things that P-Cars did good and did bad. I think that they did really good. I think it was the driving of, especially the Group B cars and etc. in those rally and rallycross and the loose surfaces and the transition from the loose to the asphalt and all that. I really think a rally game with the engine that they have for P-Cars 2 would drive really good. I loved driving that RS200 around.
Well, I think that's why they included so much weather and weather effects and all those, like how you can run the Nurburgring in the snow. I think they knew they had a good thing. But it's a shame because, I mean, with not every wheel shipping with a handbrake, using the handbrake and driving a rally car really to the limit feels quite awkward in that game. And I think that is going to be one of my next sim-related purchases, is just a simple, like, not a DIY handbrake, but one of those cheap 3D printed ones. Because I do miss, on my Driving Force GT, the sequential shifter, because I'd use that as my rally handbrake.
Oh yeah, now we just have a button, right?
Yeah. And it's not in the greatest placement. Like, you really have to extend your thumb to reach where the rightmost button is on the G29. Whereas it was really nice just having a stick, because you could really work the wheel and have it upside down and do all kinds of things and shift the car back and forth with the use of the handbrake and the brake in tandem, and I just can't do that anymore. But we're going to do one more lap here and try and set a blistering 52-second time. I feel like we got through the turn 1 complex quite well. We did.
That's another thing. Meme cars, people love them when it's, I don't know, broadband or whatever YouTuber is driving them, but then nobody wants to drive them. When are they going to do this, a sim racing system race with the lawnmowers? That would be something.
So does the lawnmower have accurate physics? Or is it just like a meme car that has like placeholder from an Alfa Romeo?
No, I think it actually has, in terms of the chassis, I think it has accurate physics, if we can call that, because it's actually very slidey and very nervous because it's so small.
Okay.
But it has a lot of power. It's really quick.
So we did run a mid 52, which I wanted to break into the 52s, and we're going to spectate this one. One thing I will say is it modeled the front wheel drive behavior quite well. The torque steer and the insane wheel spin, which is funny because on rear wheel drive cars in this game, there's no wheel spin, but here it nailed the behavior and how the car does that kind of self-aligning understeer twitch. And it kind of reminded me of driving mini stocks. It's funny, I used to be completely terrible at front wheel drive cars and sims, and then I raced front wheel drive oval cars for 2 years, and suddenly I love touring cars now. But damn, just look at the sheer beauty of that body roll.
Yes, it's so well modeled here. Really. It was ahead of its time, we have to admit that.
Well, and again, with its dominance in Forza as of late, I mean, it's definitely not a race car by any means, but in the video game world, with some of the ways developers have allowed people to customize their cars, you bump it up a few classes and it's surprisingly competent. So we ran on what, a 52.4 in the Honda Odyssey, and we are now switching to the Chevrolet Astrovan, which I believe is an FR car. It's kind of insane that we're discussing these with semi-serious. No, it is four-wheel drive.
Ooh.
So we will be down 19 horsepower. We're going to gain a bunch of weight.
Well, it does have torque, at least.
Light pewter metallic. Absolutely beautiful.
Wasn't this the van from the FBI or something?
I believe the FBI used Fords. Same with most regional police departments. I believe they had the contract with Ford, and I think they still do. Especially up here, you'll see unmarked F-150s all over the place. But no, I believe it was the various Ford vans.
So maybe I'm mixing, maybe only in movies.
This is more of a... The Astrovan was more of a utility van for like electricians. It was very good, like the storage compartment, especially in the back. If you took out the seats, it was a bit taller, I believe. I mean, all of these late '90s, early 2000s North American vans were pieces of shit, one way or another. They had issues with rolling over on highways and all kinds of fun stuff that murdered a bunch of people, and maybe Chevy got in trouble for. I know it was definitely a big thing with the SUVs.
Oh, they got in trouble for so many things. Even, I don't know, even the electrics killing people, I guess. Or was that Toyota? I think that was Toyota in the big scandal they had also in North America. I think they blamed Firestone for those rolls, yes.
That sounds about right.
So how's this big van?
You can tell it's heavier. You can actually feel it a bit in the force feedback, which is really surprising because for a game this old to have that kind of detailed FFB. Obviously, four-wheel drive is a big advantage here. Because I'm not having to drive it like a touring car, I can just use my normal lines. Oh shit. That was a good save. The gearing is all sorts of fucked up. 1 is super short. 2 is basically where you want to stay in the whole lap, and 3 it just bogs. But I am very much interested to see where I...
It bogs? Maybe it only has 4 gears, no?
And it sounds like our sound is glitched here for a second. Yeah, our sound is glitched because this is definitely a PS2 emulator, not a true PS2. I do own a legitimate copy of this game, though. I have a pretty sizable PS2 collection.
You've been amassing it over the last years.
So that's a 54 on the board.
Ooh, this is close. You see, this is close, folks.
It definitely sucks on corner entry. You can tell the extra weight really causes some problems. And through center, it definitely doesn't set or rotate like the Odyssey does, but on exit, you have enormous amounts of grip.
Yeah, four-wheel drive definitely helping you.
I definitely prefer how this handles to the Odyssey, but I do think the Odyssey is just a bit quicker. We both crossed the line at around 80 miles an hour, though. So we ran a 52.4 in the Odyssey. And the sound is definitely glitched. It's just sitting at what sounds like 3K RPM. And it has fixed itself.
Yeah.
Just now it suddenly came back. Yeah, it definitely needs a complete redo of the gears, but we're going default setup here. Man, and it just struggles out of corners. The Honda Odyssey had enough torque to spin the tires, surprisingly. 53.0. But whereas the Odyssey had torque to spin the tires, and it honestly drove like a touring car. This is a boat.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised that the Odyssey has the underpinnings of an Accord or something like that underneath, while this probably has the underpinnings of some pickup.
It is fun to just set the car and rock out of the corner, though. This is going to be close.
What is interesting is that indeed these two vehicles can drive so different in this game.
And we went 2/10 quicker in the Astrovan. That's pretty cool. The 4-wheel drive absolutely helps, though. Just being able to
surprisingly close, indeed.
Yeah, like I mean, let's say you're in an online league and your choice is between the Honda Odyssey or the Astrovan. The touring car guys would just pick the Odyssey, and I think they could get it to drive a lot quicker. This is fun though. Do one more lap. Can we break into the 51s? I think that'd be pretty cool. Just gonna launch it into turn 1 here. And I guess the extra weight in this situation is an advantage because it just sets wherever you toss the car on the track. Putting the Astrovan like an inch off the barriers. Off the chip into the final corners. Oh, it's a bit loose. One more lap, let's go for it.
You're sounding like Will Marsh already.
Hey man, that was a 52.0, and I fucked up. There's absolutely a 51 in it. Oh, look at that line. On the gas early, wheel upside down. Down half a tenth, but you know what? We fucked up the final sector. So we can get that back here. We're good. Off the chip again. Pin it right against the wall. On the gas early. Right to the edge of the racing surface. That might be a 51. $51.97. This bitch is fast. Wow. That was a fun lap.
You're getting better driving boats around here.
America prevails, absolutely correct.
Make America great again.
Max speed, 100 miles an hour. And what's funny is, again, if you scroll through my lap history, you can see my braking point get deeper and deeper and deeper. Although it didn't really change. I was really deep in one because of the low speed. But wow, yeah, that'll look hilarious on video. And it's so stable. It's hilarious. And as long as you understand that you're driving a boat, you kind of, you really anticipate where it's going to go upon entering a corner. And as long as you let it set, you can start attacking the corner exit portion a lot earlier than you can in most race cars, of course. But man, that thing is fucking cruising. Look at that! Putting a little tire on the curb, running a couple inches off the wall, tire in the dirt. Fuck, this is fun.
And I bet very scary for the Japanese people who live here to see such a thing. It looks so cool, you know, just rolling around with its small wheels, like you say.
But I think we're going to end the stream there, because we've been just hanging out here for 2 hours, 3 hours.
Already.
Yeah, damn. Apparently the replay in this, it only replays your personal best lap from the session.
Yeah, I think so, yes.
Yeah.
When you're doing a time trial, it's just the best lap. No, but this was a great game back in the day. Definitely underrated. And you can have fun treating it seriously, or you can have fun just doing this kind of stuff.
Well, again, career mode in this game, I don't think I really elaborated on it when we started, but it's very unique, as is a lot of things about this game. You progress based on handicaps. So you start with the starter cars. You start with these really piece of shit Datsun stuff in the 70s. It really isn't fast. I guess you could call it a D-class car. And you earn basically what I'll say is I rating and progress through the game via skill points that fluctuate up and down. It's not just a linear Need for Speed Shift style where you just earn XP and go through the levels. It's if you suck and you lose races and you bounced off the wall a bunch, your rank goes down. You get stuck. And what happens in this game is the shittier car you select in career mode, and let's say you still win races, the more points you earn. So instead of just trying to progress through the game, and let's say unlock the hardcore Nissans, the Porsches, the RUFs, the Dodge Vipers, you're actually discouraged from using those cars. You're encouraged instead to continue running basically mid-range stuff or stuff that's below what the AI cars have been given. And this, in turn, lets you progress through the game much, much quicker. So there's a bit of a meta between racing some of the quicker cars on the roster, and I'll just go through some of the mid-range stuff here to show you. There's like a Supra and stuff like that. You go from intentionally limiting yourself from driving some of the quicker cars to progress quicker, versus finally, let's say, finally getting into a Mustang and then continuing to bat out of your league. Like it's very, it obviously has the same event style as Gran Turismo, where it's just here's a single race, go race against these cars. But they've taken a twist on it where they say, no, if you want to rocket through the game really quick, you know, play against these cars on a hard difficulty and use a car that's maybe down 50 horsepower. And it leads to this, in turn with the iRating stuff, it leads to this situation where the progression is just so unique and so just unlike anything else in SimRacing, and XW has got it as well. It takes like your average for the past 10 races. Like it's really, really odd. But once you sit down, because it's really a 30-second explanation when you start career, once you really sit down and understand what the career mode wants out of you, and how there's many metagames to progressing through it at different rates, it's a single-player experience that is so challenging, and it's so unique, and so less about collecting cars, less about blasting through all the races to get to the big race at the end, of course all these games have, and more about challenging yourself as a driver
and challenging yourself to improve, and not setting ambiguous personal goals, but really crafting your own path and being smart about your XP gains. It's really insane. And if you do have a PS2 emulator in somewhat decent condition, or you do have a PS2 lying around with a PS2 compatible wheel, give it a go. It's really neat. You have anything to add to that?
Some neat cars that you're showing there.
But I guess, I mean, 3 hours later, we're going to call it a night. I got to eat some food.
Yeah, it's pretty late here, and I have to get some sleep. I've been awake for long hours. But it was a fun trip down memory lane with this game once again. And it was fun analyzing some stuff, comparing with the modern games.
Well, I guess thanks to the 12 or so people that came out tonight, we actually had a decent crowd for this stream not being advertised, but we're going to call it an evening. I'm going to go back to shitposting on Twitter, but I guess thanks for coming out. And I mean, just keep checking on the YouTube app to see when we're streaming, because I'm trying to get, I guess, into this to some extent, not to the point where I'm like a broadbent type figure or anything, but it's a lot of these guys offer the same kind of GT3 at Spa streams, and I figured if we can offer something different, we'll be our own little unique community. But until next time, I guess we'll say goodnight.
Bye bye everyone.